I'm a lawyer, and almost all of my practice is consumed with defending natural health product manufacturers from Health Canada. That's what I do. I've been doing it seems like forever now. And I get information that nobody else gets, because courts order Health Canada to disclose stuff to me that they would never think of disclosing to me. My first role was acting for Health Canada, because a herbalist in Canada was named Jim Strauss was suing Health Canada. Health Canada had seized some herbs at the border that he was importing, legal herbs that anyone could own. And he had this really funny idea that that was theft and he should get compensated. So he sued them. And there's no Department of Justice in Canada. So they hired the firm I was at and filed got thrown at me. And I had his matter thrown out of court. He was in the wrong court. Like, it was pure procedure. It had nothing to do with the fact that they'd taken his herbs. But him and I got along just fabulously. In fact, if you can believe it, he took me out for brunch after I had his thing thrown out of court. But this guy had just a little herb shop. I mean, when you went in there, you were more likely to have tea with him than have him selling anything. There's no way he'd have a double-blind clinical trial. Like, that was just out of the question. So I asked, like, is there any way we can prove that you're telling the truth? And he gave me thousands of letters, thousands. I mean, it was sickening because I had an obligation to read them all. And just from a time perspective, because like the rest of you, we have time management issues. And they were all the same, just people who, he hadn't asked people to write him letters, just voluntarily, like, thank you for giving my health back, and here's what happened. And so I spoke to numerous people to try and figure out, well, who can I call as witnesses? Who are going to be, you know, because you also have to be good and presentable and all that stuff. I didn't question any of the stories. And I had selected 5 middle-class, professional witnesses who had all had heart disease, all needed bypass surgeries, and had had at least one, some had had 2 open heart bypass surgeries. They had all then continued to have heart disease, but just because you've had new veins patched in doesn't mean you've solved the problem, so the new veins plug up. And they all they all needed another bypass surgery, and some of them weren't willing to go through it again. They'd had too many complications, and they'd rather die. And others, the medical profession wasn't willing to put them through it again. They were such poor candidates to survive. So they had to turn to the natural health product area, or the alternative medicine. They stumbled across these heart drops. Their health came back. And whereas they had been bedridden and couldn't work, they all went back to work, and they were just perfect witnesses. I shared with you during my last talk about True Hope CM Power Plus, the treatment for bipolar disorder. I mean, the world expert in treating bipolar disorder testified under oath in the court, and I had to subpoena him to get him there. That if you took EM Power Plus off the market, there would have been deaths, there would have been hospitalizations, there would have been results. The Canadian Mental Health Association, as I shared with you, blamed Health Canada for 2 suicides, when Health Canada, for a very short period of time, managed to restrict supply. So we've got just 2 natural health products that I've spoken to you about, where if they were actually pulled off the market, we would have deaths in the thousands, like thousands. And that's just 2. There's what? We're down, I think, now at 40,000 from an estimated high of 70,000 natural health products. Okay, so we've lost about 30,000 in the last 4 years. Oh, I know, it's just staggering. I wonder when we're down to 4 companies how many there'll be. I'm wagering to guess about 15,000. But in any event, my point is that there is a danger to taking them off the market. Okay? And so I've had to do a paradigm shift. That's how I got involved. And I want to talk to you about, because I'm saying to you, listen, my experience with Health Canada is that it's a dangerous game for you to think you can trust them through this process. Now, I have a rule that I use in my life to determine what somebody's intention is. And that is I ignore what they say, and I look at what they do. Okay? You've probably heard that type of wisdom before. If you want to know if somebody's lying to you, see what they do. Okay? And especially when you have the opportunity to observe them over a long period of time, you'll see a pattern in their behavior. And so, let's look at what Health Canada does, too, because I find it funny. I'm going to read to you the National Health Product Director's mission statement. Like, this is who we are, this is what we do. You can't not find it if you go on their website. It shows up on several of their documents. I mean, ironically, and you find it ironic when I read it to you, it shows up on their compliance policy. And this is their attack policy to take your products off the market. So, and their mission statement, our role is to ensure that Canadians have ready access to natural health products that are safe, effective, and of high quality while respecting freedom of choice and philosophical and cultural diversity. You know, our role is to ensure Canadians have ready access to natural health products. That's like a fuzzy sweater. It just feels so good, doesn't it? So it would be a nicer talk if I just read to you what they say, because they say wonderful things. But let's look at what they do, and let's go back into the early 1990s. I mean, we'll look at a 20-year period. They were attacking natural health products. They weren't called that back then. And they were attacking manufacturers. And not on safety concerns, just, you know, willy-nilly. They, as I'll describe to you how they fabricate risk a little later. The industry rebelled. Consumers rebelled. Consumers noticed products were disappearing and they rebelled. I mean, some people in this room, there's Mr. Tuck here, I know Lorna from Hands, they were involved in the fight. There are others of you that were involved in the fight. I'm told that that petition drive that people signed saying our food is not drugs was actually signed by more Canadians than any other petition in Canadian history. There was also a lawsuit brought on by David Rowlands and Freedom of Choice in Healthcare, because if you remember, Health Canada was going to bring in cost recovery. And the industry didn't like that. I mean, when I want to annoy you, I just say cost recovery. I mean, we don't like the sound of that. It's coming, but we don't like the sound of that. And the way the law was at the time, I've reviewed that lawsuit, and I think the government was going to lose. And on the eve of trial, the then Minister of Health, Alan Rock, says, okay, drop the lawsuit, and, you know, we'll talk. You've got some points. He refers the matter to the Standing Committee of Health. I am told that the consultation process that the Standing Committee of Health undertook before they came out with the 53 recommendations was basically the most involved in Canadian history. Okay? Like, I mean, the industry and consumer groups were involved. And you can't read the testimony, you can't look at the recommendations without going, oh, just wait, the message from Canadians was protect our access to natural health products. Don't treat our foods as drugs. That was the message. Okay, it was a very simple message. Protect them. Okay? We thought we were getting at least a third category. I mean, didn't you think that? Okay? I mean, did you think you were getting a drug style regulations? No, there's just no way. So, the last time you guys brought about the biggest consumer movement in history, you were involved in the widest consultation process before any regulations came out in Canadian history. There were meetings like this all over Canada before, and we thought we'd won. We're getting a third category. I mean, do you realize that was 10 years ago the 53 recommendations came out? Like a decade. A decade ago we thought we had won. Could you imagine that we would be here in the room going, oh my gosh, we're going to Australia where there's going to be 4 companies. Like, it did not dawn on anyone. And the Minister of Health said, yes, I accept these recommendations. And then Health Canada gets it and they start doing their own consultations. And I'm bringing this up because we look at what they do. Okay, the message was clear. They heard the message. Our food are not drugs, protect our access. We want a third category. And what was the action we got? Okay? We got drug-style regulations. If you take the natural health product regulations and you take a Jiffy marker and black out natural health product and write drug above it and compare it to the old drug-style regulations, tell me what the differences are. I mean, there are some differences, but the structure, it's so identical that it hurts. Now, I thought when we were going to get these new regulations, the purpose was we would then become legitimized. That was one of the attractions. It wasn't only this false belief that we could make claims, but hey, we could become legal, we could become credible, we can work with this regulatory body. Well, are you becoming legal? I mean, 60% of your product licenses are not getting through, and these are single product.